Hey peeps, Dave here from Chronic Pain and Weed with Dave's Canna Reviews. Going to touch on today just a bit of an update on how I've been going with my treatment with medical cannabis. It's been 12 months now since I started medical cannabis seriously. I've been a social user of cannabis over the years, but never to treat a chronic illness, only for recreational use. So after years and years and years of prescription medications and all the sorts, I decided to give up all the medication pill-wise and just turn to medical cannabis for treatment. So over the last 12 months, I've tried a variety of different oils and flowers, coinciding with my specialist up in Queensland, Dr. John Tay from Plant Med. Thanks, Plant Med. Been fantastic over the last 12 months. So obviously, medical cannabis is used for a lot of things, and with a lot of chronic illness comes a lot of different ailments, which is fatigue, chronic fatigue, depression, stress, anxiety, and in my case, lots and lots of nerve pain. So that's why I went down a medical cannabis path. But today I just wanted to sort of touch base on where I am treatment-wise today and what medications I'm using. So early days I started with the basic oils, CBD, Metacabilis 5%, which I think is 100 milligrams, straight CBD, which is doing really well. I'm still on it. I still take the CBD 3 times a day. 0.5 of a mil 3 times a day, morning, lunch and night. I also take a C100 oil at night time, sort of 0.7 to 1 mil at night time of the C100, and throughout the day I use a dry flower. So the oils I used for probably 3 to 4 months, I think it was, in the beginning before I got onto the dried flower, because I had trouble with work cover paying for vaporizers and things like that. But eventually we got it going, and so it's been 12 months now on the dry flower treatment. So I started with a few different strains in the beginning, some Baker Street. What else have I used? I've used a few other flowers, but the main one is a Afghan Red Number 1, which is a sativa. Most Australians I get are sativa strains. I'm not real keen on the indica strains, mainly because of the groggy effect and the body stone. I'm not real keen on, but I really do like the sativas for their uplifting sort of properties within the plant, and they help a lot. But the one I've moved to in the last 2 months is an absolute game changer for me, and that is called a Canopy Krypton. So this is the Canopy Krypton by Spectrum Therapeutics. It's a 25 milligram flower, so it's 1,000 milligrams minimum and contains 250 milligrams total of tetrahydrocannabinol, THC. So this is an absolute cracker of a flower. Its properties for anti-inflammatory, anti-anxiety, anti-depression. It's got a fair few sort of really good things going for it. Also, gut issues. If you've got any gut health issues that's caused by inflammatory issues, this is also an absolute cracker. Why? For what it contains. It contains plenty of good stuff from the terpene world. Myrcene, caryophyllene, we'll just call it caryophyllene, BCP, and also linalool is one of its main sort of terpenes, and all three of these terpenes have massive effects on the central nervous system, especially when it comes to inflammatory issues. Myrcene is probably the biggest one. It's a major constituent in many plant species, including hops and cannabis. Obviously, we get a lot more intense amounts of it within the cannabis plant. Its biggest contributes to helping the endocannabinoid system, obviously, is its antioxidant, anti-aging, anti-inflammatory. It's just been an absolute cracker. I can't believe the difference it's made in the pain symptoms themselves, and I think most of that is due to its anti-inflammatory properties, which I have massive issues with within my sort of central nervous system. I have gut issues, and with the fibromyalgia especially, it takes away that chronic sort of muscle spasm that the nerves create. My biggest thing with it is how I use it. So if you're a new smoker, or if you're new to cannabis treatment, I suggest that you can get a lot lower strains. You can get 17s and 18% and 24% sort of THC flowers, but this is high on the spectrum. As I say, this is a 25% THC, and what I've found is that I mix it. And when I say I mix it with a straight CBD flower, the Kind Soul, from who are they from? Kind Medical. It's called Soul, which is this little sucker here. So this again, it's another sativa based sort of hybrid. It's an indica sativa plant, so it's a hybrid plant. 50% indica, 50% sativa, so you get the best of both worlds. You get obviously the muscle relaxant properties of the flower, but you also get the sativa properties, which give you anti-inflammatory and anti-anxiety. It can be a bit of an appetite suppressant as well. So you've got to be a little bit careful for which flowers you use. If you're having issues with problems and you're not eating well, you're finding that you're losing weight, you really need to find a flower that's going to give you the munchies, that's going to increase your appetite. So you really want to sort of then lean more towards your indica type strains that will give you the munchies and sort of boost your appetite to make you want to eat. If not, if you're not too bad, or if you find that you may be overweight, that you struggle with your weight, you can even use cannabis for a weight loss, and a very safe weight loss regime for using medical cannabis. But for those you want to more sort of lean towards your sativas, for your appetite suppression type of flowers. So what I do is I use my Kind Soul 1 to 16 straight CBD flower, less than 1% THC, but it's also an absolute ripper throughout the day, so you don't get stoned at all. So if you're a little bit scared of stepping into medical cannabis, for the fact that you're a bit scared of getting stoned or sort of putting yourself on a bit of a different realm, this is a great starter for you. And as I mentioned, to mix it with the Canopy Krypton is even better. So I've found that I'm doing a 50-50 ratio of the Kind Soul and the Canopy Krypton together. So it's just a matter of getting your 50-50 ratio in your grinder, which looks a little bit like that. So that's the Canopy Krypton and the Kind Soul together. 3 nuggets of each, or roughly 50-50. Put it in your grinder, and then just give it a good old mixo. So while I'm doing that, terpenes. I've spoken about terpenes before in a couple of the other posts that I've put on, and just how vital they are to your body's system, especially your body's endocannabinoid system, that in a lot of us has been laying dormant for a very, very long time, and in some cases not very active at all. Our endocannabinoid system, I haven't found, but they've found that as babies and very young adolescents, that we do have we still have a pretty high endocannabinoid system within the body, because we're born with it, obviously. But as we get older, introduce not very common foods, or we introduce common bad foods into our system, and eventually our endocannabinoid system fades away. it becomes very dormant within our body, and we need it. We basically need our endocannabinoid system to be active, to create lots of different things within the body, cell growth, producing sort of the right amino acids throughout the body. So I found the 50-50 mix, you can sort of smoke that all day. The most I've had in a day with a pretty chronic flare-up has been around sort of 10 sessions throughout the day with the Canopy and the Console combined, and have still been able to manage throughout the day without getting too stoned, without getting too wasted, which is really, really good, because if you still need to function, unfortunately with a lot of people with chronic illness, functioning is very limited to what you can actually do through the day. So this is a cracker, the Canopy Krypton, for get up and go, and giving you that energy boost that you need to do the dishes, mop the floor, vacuum, or do things you might need to do that you might necessarily not be able to do, especially on your other strains. If you're on the indica style strains where you're bedridden or you're really struggling to sort of function, this is where I suggest you get into the more sativa style of strains. So myrcene, cracker of a flavonoid, cannabinoid, terpene, whatever you want to call it. It's a very popular food additive, for flavouring agent in the food industry, beverage industry, makeup industry, just because it's got massive sort of health benefits to it. Again, you can get these terpenes in a lot of other foods, but obviously we can get a lot more of it in cannabis because of the amount within the cannabis plants. You can find it in beer, so if you're a beer drinker, you're getting your myrcene intake, which is really good. Just don't overdo it. And it takes a lot of beer to get the same amount of myrcene into your system compared to smoking a joint. You might have to have sort of 20, 30 beers to get the same sort of extracts into your body. So myrcene, yeah, big one. The other one, which I can't usually pronounce properly, is the caryophyllene, BCP. So it's another great terpene, especially for your anti-inflammatory, anxiety, depression. This is a cracker. You can also find this in hops, cloves, oregano, spinach, chard, cinnamon, rosemary, allspice, thyme, fig, and chamomile. You saw Roman chamomile. You can find this in. So it's another one that's abundant in lots of other plants, and that's why we go back to the cannabis as a natural plant sort of substitute for medication. It's just we're more turning towards cannabis because of the high amounts of all these good terpenes and flavonoids within the cannabis plant. So the interaction of CBD, which is the Console also has this terpene within it, and they're starting to use it a lot more now for obviously getting people off other drugs, which sounds a bit weird, but yeah, they're using it to get people off opioids and all sorts of other nasty sort of drugs. Codeines are a big issue that my doctor told me for almost 12 years that codeine wasn't an issue and that I could keep taking it and take as much as I want and there'll be no issue, which we found out later to be an absolute load of shit. So anyway, that's the other one. The other one, great terpene is linalool. It helps conditions such as anxiety and depression and can help to combat insomnia. So linalool is another cracker. So it helps sensation of pain and cardiac rhythms. So it can help regulate heartbeat, obviously heart rhythm. People with high blood pressure, it can be sort of a really good help for. And again, with the cannabis, if you're a new user, just get used to that initial 10 to 15 minutes of when you do medicate, that your heart rate is going to increase. You're going to feel a little bit anxious because your body goes into this state of sort of realigning. So yeah, just be ready for that, new users, that the heart rate will increase for that 10 to 15 minutes. Yes, you're going to get stoned. You might feel a bit weird, but after that 10 to 15 minutes, you're going to calm down, and the cannabis will come into effect, and it'll have the actual opposite effect. Your heart rate will then drop, and it'll actually become lower than when you were first sitting before medical cannabis. So a lot of the trial stuff I've done over the last 12 months is obviously blood pressure before, blood pressure afterwards. I've got a pretty high I've got a reasonable blood pressure, but a fairly high heart rate. So before starting medical cannabis, my heart rate was generally sit around 135, 140 constantly. Which has never sort of been an issue. As soon as I use the medical cannabis, within 10 to 15 minutes, my heart rate drops down to sort of 85 to 90, which is, I've noticed over the last 12 months, has been a standard sort of practice. So that's pretty amazing. Anxiety, depression, linalool is a cracker for it. Again, it's been used in fragrances and cosmetics, and it's a really calming style terpene. So linalool, look for that in your cannabis products. Is a cracker. Make sure there's lots of it in it. Cariophylline, BCP. Again, make sure you're looking for lots of that in your cannabis. And the big one is myrcene, which you'll find in most of your cannabis products is myrcene. A lot of the suppliers don't give you exact amounts of these terpenes within the plant. I'd say it's pretty hard to get an absolute clear definition of how much is in each batch, but I'm sure that information's out there somewhere. So they're the three sort of the main ones I'm looking for. And again, if you're a new user, I would highly recommend going straight to the Canopy Krypton, even though it's a high strain THC. Have a chat to your GP or your cannabis specialist about it, but you can then mix it with the Kind-Sol CBD, but then start your ratios lower. So you start with a sort of an 80-20 ratio, 80% CBD, 20% THC. Obviously, your flower is going to last you a lot longer as well. You're not just smoking straight out THC from the beginning, so you'll stretch it out, which will make it a lot more cost effective too, which is really good. Speaking of cost effective, the Canopy Krypton, you're looking sort of around $13.50 a gram. And the Kind-Sol's around the same. It's about $13.50 a gram as well. So everyone who's sort of saying now, it's cheaper to go and buy it off the street, it's cheaper to go and get it from a dealer down the pub, not the case. Medical cannabis now is cheaper to buy through your pharmacist or registered supplier than what it is to go and buy it from the bloke down the street. So that's a good thing. Apart from your overhead cost is obviously making the appointment, seeing your doctor and paying for doctor's visits. It might work out to about around the same price. See how you go. The other thing, obviously, I've touched on base before, is work cover. I'm fortunate enough that work cover have been paying for my medical cannabis treatment over the last 12 months, which has been a whole sort of thing. If anyone's got any questions on work cover and cannabis, shoot me a message or shoot me an email. I'm glad to help out there. They have currently stopped paying for my cannabis at the moment because it's under review. So after the 12 months, they've decided that they want to review the process and to see whether or not they want to keep paying for it. Which is a matter of fact of just getting onto my specialists, pain specialist, my GP, my psychologist, and basically getting them to put the information together to say that it's working for me and that I should continue treatment. And I will. That's something I've got to fight for and something I've got to do, because you just get sick of taking prescription medications, and this has just cliche just been a lifesaver for me, getting onto the medical cannabis. So if you've been on work cover for a long time, and you're going through the work cover system and you're just getting pumped full of medications, and advising you to get surgeries and advising you to get implants, I would highly recommend against it. And for a first approach, use cannabis rather than a final approach. Would highly recommend it. That's the biggest thing work cover on about, is that, you've got to try at least sort of 3 or 4 different types of medications or implants or whatever it may be to combat chronic pain, and that they're saying they're going to use medical cannabis as a last resort treatment. So that attitude has to change, and it needs to become a first resort treatment, which would be absolutely awesome for a lot of work cover patients out there, even for temporary work-related injuries. If you've had a work-related injury and you have to have surgery or whatever, that first 3-6 months out of surgery and recovery, it should be medical cannabis before opioids, codeines, all those sorts of things. So speak to your GP about it. It's a pretty simple process applying for it through your work cover agent. What's not so easy about it is what happens next once it gets rejected, and then you go through the conciliation process and then the medical panel, so on and so forth, until you do finally get approved. Unfortunately, work cover still have no fucking idea of what they're doing with it, which is very, very frustrating and difficult. But anyway, that's a whole nother video. If you're interested, shoot me a comment or an email, and we'll try and get onto that for you. The console, the Canopy Krypton, cannot recommend it enough. From Spectrum Therapeutics. Get onto your GP, get onto your specialist, and ask if you can give it a go. And again, try that ratio. Try the 50-50. Try the 60-40. Try the 80-20 ratio of whatever suits you. Again, if you're a first time user, beginner, start slow. Go low, start slow, and increase your dosages as it goes up. I was sort of told it was going to take anywhere to 8 weeks to 3 months to build a tolerance to the THC, which is probably true for a lot of people. In my case, the tolerance skill, I don't tolerate THC like a lot of people can. I've got mates who can smoke and smoke and smoke and smoke till it comes out of their ears and still function pretty well. I'm not one of those people. I do get fairly stoned pretty quickly when it comes to smoking THC, and that's why I like the ratio with CBD THC. And for anybody who is using THC, just remember, if you do use too much and you find yourself starting to green out, that CBD is your best friend. It'll actually cancel out the THC. So if you find yourself starting to green out and you've got straight CBD, the Medicabolus CBD oil in your fridge, go and grab 0.5, 0.7 of a mil of your straight CBD, stick it under your tongue. Within 10 to 15 minutes, you'll be fine. It'll cancel out the THC and bring you back down to earth. So that's a really good trick. Hint if you do find yourself getting a little bit wasted sometimes, which can happen. Trust me. As I say, I was using the T25 night oil for a while, and it was crazy. I was supposed to be up to 1 mil at night time. I couldn't get past 0.4, 0.5 of a mil without greening out. Couldn't sleep. I was just super, super stoned. So I ended up getting away from the T25 and moving to the C100 oil, which is it's only 5% THC, just enough to doze you off and give you a really good night's sleep. So I think I've covered everything. If you've got any questions, comments, please shoot me an email. Put a comment in the link. Like and subscribe to the channel if you like what you see. Obviously, I am not a cannabis expert. I am not a GP. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a specialist. I'm just a dude who smokes weed for his chronic pain, fibromyalgia. Originally I've only been prescribed medical cannabis through the work cover scheme for chronic pain related to several work-related surgeries that failed, which in turn gave me a chronic chronic pain condition, which they class as fibromyalgia, which is the only name they can give it when they don't know what the fuck's going on. So that's what I've been prescribed it for, which obviously, yes, it helps immensely with chronic pain, but the biggest one it helps for is to manage to live with your chronic pain or your chronic disease, to help with the anxiety, to help with the depression, to help with general everyday life when it comes to battling chronic disease. So yeah, can't recommend it enough to get off the gear and get on the greens for sure. That's, you know, something you need to do for yourself, because you find yourself getting trapped within the whole sort of the whole treatment plans that doctors give you, and as we all know, chronic pain that lasts longer than 6 weeks. I mean, people have had fucking headaches for longer than 6 weeks. So you've just got to sort of look at, you know, conditions and how you can help yourself the best through medical cannabis. And it's literally a one medication fix all type scenario. So good luck with your medical cannabis journey. If there's any questions I can answer any better, or if there's any information you can give me, for sure. There's a couple of good websites out there at the moment. As I say, I'm using Canna Reviews, which is really cool. The other good one is Honolulu, which also does great reviews, and you can get on there and make your own profile and comment on particular strains and flowers and oils that you're using. It's really helpful for other people who are starting to go through the process and the journey, to read as much and do as much information searching yourself as you can, until GPs and specialists get up to scratch with the whole cannabis treatment medical situation that's going on at the moment. So yeah, I think I'll leave it there. That's been long enough. It's almost 30 minutes. Again, like, comment, subscribe if you like the channel. If not, just happy to help anyone that I can help, and go from there. I'll put a few links down below the video, with links to, obviously, the Canopy Krypton and the Console medications. And enjoy your day. Take it easy. Peace out, peeps. We'll see you next time.